Let's go live. We've got the Deputy Labor Leader Richard Marles responding to the Prime Minister's speech.
Worker. We do need to be bringing Australians together at this moment, but this is a government and a Prime Minister that has been more responsible for pulling Australians apart than any other. You only need to look at the failed JobKeeper scheme. The importance of a wage subsidy in the midst of this crisis is something that Labor has been making clear from the outset, and the Prime Minister was opposed to it. He was dragged kicking and screaming to the plate, and when JobKeeper was finally put in place, some workers got it, some workers didn't, and it was pretty hard to understand the difference between the two. And then just last Friday, we discover that there is a $60 billion failure in the way in which this program had been budgeted. This is the single biggest budget failure of any government since Federation. It's more money than the entire global financial crisis stimulus. And it means that just this time last week, the government imagined that it was spending $60 billion more on what turns out to be absolutely nothing. A government which is $60 billion removed from reality is a government which has lost any claim whatsoever to economic credibility. And ultimately that's the rub, because the government is talking about bringing the economy out of ICU. The truth is that the Australian economy barely had a heartbeat before we got into the COVID crisis. Scott Morrison was presiding over an economy in which he had doubled the debt. He was presiding over an economy which had anaemic growth, where underemployment was rife, where we were seeing record low wage growth. And that's the basis upon which we went into the COVID crisis. Today's speech was such a lost opportunity. You know, we heard lots of slogans and lots of marketing. JobSeeker, JobKeeper, JobMaker. Really hope that it doesn't end up being a JobBlunder. But at the end of the day, this is the most significant moment of reconstructing, of reimagining the Australian economy that we have seen since the end of the Second World War. And all we got today was
the Deputy Labor Leader Richard Marles there, and any sense of bipartisanship, Andrew Clennell? Well, it evaporated with those comments by Richard Marles. The Prime Minister wants everyone in the same room, and he's talking, let's, get together and find reform. Absolutely scathing analysis by Richard Marles. Said it's not a job maker, but a job blunder.
Well, they must be cursing Greg Combet. I mean, Anthony Albanese was in cabinet with Greg Combet, and Greg Combet's done Scott Morrison one of the best political favours ever, him and Christian Porter, by ensuring that there was that relationship with Sally McManus, which essentially enables this and allows this to happen. And, I think the Prime Minister's got a point if he says, well, this is above politics, because it kind of is a way forward to create jobs. And it's a real opportunity he's seized here, Scott Morrison. He could have said, we need IR reform. We need to cut workers' wages and conditions to get people in jobs, and been that obtuse about it. We need this legislation, in other words. He hasn't done that. He said, let's all get in a room and thrash it out. And now, he's really put himself on the line with it. He said he'll be judged on it. But I think it's a pretty good move.